The July 1st, 2025 East Town Township Board of Supervisors meeting. And everyone stand for the allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First up on the agenda is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second. You want a second?
No, that I was gonna jump in,
Do you want
but second, and then,
to? Okay. So Mike seconded, and then is there something you want to pull out, Mike?
yeah, I'd like to pull out item E for this consideration next time.
Okay. So any reason why, or?
Yeah, it doesn't really follow our policy. Our policy is to, whenever there's a vacancy, to publicize it so that anybody who's interested can,
I think we already just talked about that issue, didn't we?
I don't know.
Well, if I recall correctly, with that particular item, we discussed the possibility of merely appointing one of the people that had applied because they had already been approved by the EAC. And the reason why we're going to go forward with that person is we only had so much interest in it to begin with, and this will continue.
And that's our
Yes.
understanding, that's why,
Yeah,
that's why it's in the form that it's into.
right. So I mean, I recommend keeping it in, at least I'd be in favor of it, just because we've already kind of discussed this, but I guess we have, what, 4 when we pull it out, or?
Yeah, majority, up to a majority, if there's a motion and a second, unless there's consensus, and it doesn't sound like there is.
Anybody else interested? I mean, again, our policy is to advertise openings. And I mean, I really like the person. I'm not saying anything about it. I think she'd make great. But I just think we should follow the policy that we have.
Yeah, fair. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I'm fine with filling the vacancy as is like this, because it's kind of a mid-year appointment, so I'm fine with that finishing out the term, but I don't know, I feel strongly either way.
And it was just in the late fall that it was reviewed, right? So
I believe this is the last one.
from our logic was you did follow the policy, this was the candidate that wasn't.
Less than a year.
Yeah. But it's your choice.
Okay, so if one doesn't care, one wants to pull it, I'm okay leaving it out. Okay.
And then it stays on.
Okay.
So you've got the consent agenda as is.
And I have one that I want to share with you.
Sure.
Check 7263. It was cut for 20,640.04, and it should have been cut for 5,960. So we would just make the change. We would that check, not issue it, make and print another one, and then you would validate it at the next meeting.
What was the difference? $200?
No, 14,000 plus or minus.
14,000.
So it was a data entry error that made something show up twice that shouldn't have showed up twice. So, somewhat straightforward on our end, administrative, sort of common administrative error. We want to pay it though, because the person is one of those vendors that a month matters.
Yeah.
So we want to pay it, and it'll be a warrant at your next, a distinct warrant is what I would envision at the next meeting.
Any other board comments? Any public comment? All in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. All right, moving on to board motions, presentations, and resolutions. First up, we have the prospective omnibus amendments. Andy, and you're possibly without a laptop today, but you can get it together.
I do. So the primary pieces in this year's omnibus are, it looks more complicated than it is, but basically what you're doing is taking the outdoor dining component, which the board since COVID has been doing that essentially either 6 months or annually. Now what we've done is we put it into the ordinance to codify it. and provided in the same places that you did by resolution, which are essentially the business oriented districts or hybrid districts. And then there's a permitting process, which you've already been conducting, but now it will be codified. The second important piece is there are in two places in property maintenance and in nuisance. There's a provision that would now allow wildflower gardens or other natural plantings. So in order to comply with property maintenance, it doesn't mean you have to have a traditional lawn in your front yard. And there are carve outs for health and safety. So for instance, if that led to harboring of rodents or people are dumping or things in there, the township and its staff still have full power to enforce. So I think those are your primary pieces of the omnibus.
Well, I know at least for the outdoor cafe use, that's something that we've been having to approve every year, so it's nice to kind of finally codify that, and I think it helps a lot of local businesses, so.
And in this case, where you are procedurally is the motion would be to refer it to the plan commissions, county and Easttown, only as to the zoning code components. And then once that review happens in the next 30 days or so, we'd come back to you for final adoption, assuming you don't see any fatal flaws or ways that you want to further amend.
Andy, is the thought that we can do that in a regular board meeting, or do we need a special meeting just to do the omnibus?
No, you can do it in a regular board meeting. It's technically a legislative hearing, but it's just a piece on the agenda. And we would advertise it twice because of the zoning code.
And I just know from a few years ago, we had a lot of omnibus amendments to do, so we had a series of separate meetings for that.
Yeah, this one is a lot simpler this year.
Well, I'll make a motion to refer the 2025 omnibus ordinance draft for review with Chester County Planning Commission and the Easttown Planning Commission, limited to zoning code matters. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other board comment?
I do have one comment, it's kind of related, but not, kind of not. And that is in addition to this, we've also reduced the parking requirements in Mobility to Berlin, which I think is a great thing. But that means there'll be less parking, and at least one business owner has asked me about valet parking. And apparently it's not allowed in the village. So I don't know, that's something we want to consider going forward as an omnibus for next year to allow it. I just wanted to put that out there.
And you do have provisions already that allow for shared parking.
Mhm.
I don't know that there's a per se ban on valet. It's
Yeah, not that I know of.
Yeah.
Off of my-
I think where he's going, it's like a de facto ban, it's so complex that,
You can't even try.
yeah.
I think in the past, we've had restaurants that have wanted to permanently occupy some of those relatively rare parking spaces on Webster Avenue in Berlin.
Mhm.
And years ago, I think the prior board was of the view that you didn't want to carve out those spaces because people use them a lot, just to get in and out and make deliveries or, pick up a newspaper or something like that.
Right, that's why we have to think through it more than
Right.
just to make sure it's equitable. to everybody.
But you can have off-site parking with some restrictions, and there are mechanisms to do a valet concept. Just maybe, at least today, not right in front of your building in public parking place.
Okay. Do I have any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the motion, say aye. All opposed, ayes have it. Okay, moving on to B, the responsible contractor ordinance.
And the next one, this is now ready for your final approval and action if you wish. It's been discussed by the board at prior meetings, approved for advertising. Now it's been fully advertised. You'll recall that it by and large follows a lot of the models you see in Chester County and throughout the region, except that in Easttown, this ordinance draft provides for a $250,000 sort of threshold before you get into all of the detail of responsible contractor. And I believe what the board's thought was that you want to focus on your really large public works projects. And then you also have some specific carve-outs that was the subject of discussion in prior meetings, including for street repair and paving kinds of things, snow plowing, and the municipal contracted landscape or yard work. And those, the plowing and the landscaping are among the hardest for the township to find interested bidders. And then on the paving, from the staff look, it's really not hard to hit that $250,000 threshold in a hurry. And in the building trades, you're more likely to see the training programs and things than you are with a paving crew. So I think that's the rationale for having that too.
Makes sense.
Do a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second. Any other board comment?
Yeah, I just think the amount's still too low. There's gonna be a lot of small projects that'll end up hitting this amount, and we're gonna end up with the bidding trouble. Even just getting any procurement.
I think it's too high, so we've compromised.
So Alex and Michael cancel each other out.
So
Hopefully it'll work out. No, I think it's a good amount, and you know, if it does turn out to be the case. You know, I think that is something we can always revisit. And it's, you know, it's not forever. We can change the ordinance as we see fit if issues do arise. So at that point, we'll take it.
And we do have some safety valve language if you have trouble getting bidders, but as the chair said, in a non-zoning ordinance, it's pretty simple amendment and a one-time advertisement. So if legislatively you decide that's a problem, you can afford it.
Any other board comment? Any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay,
Ayes have it. Okay, moving on to item C, the Bridge Avenue Firehouse offsite improvement.
And I asked Colleen to lead us through this one.
Township staff, received a request from the Berwyn Fire Company's representative, Pinoni, to evaluate the sidewalk improvements in front of Tires Plus property, the neighboring property. They wanted to remove that item from the project because it expanded way far into the drive aisle. And it was just a difficult task to complete. We asked the township engineer to evaluate to see if it would be considered a field change, a minor field change. They came back and said, no, that would not be considered a minor field change. Therefore, we are requesting to remove it from the approved plans. It has been agreed upon by the fire company and the neighboring property, so the owners of the property of Tires Plus. So we're asking the action to be a motion to revise the approved subdivision land development plans to remove the off-site improvements from this project.
Colleen, I'm sorry.
No, it's probably not the same question. I was asking.
So what was the origin of where this change order, or whatever you wanna call it, where did it come from? Like, it's impinging on the drive aisle, like, was this an engineer evaluation?
It's okay. I think what we think it is that this was an off-site improvement to the sidewalk that was part of the land development process. Remember, there was a component of it that had some property trade-offs. And so we think it was attributed to that, but it was arguably underthought at that time and turned out to be much more complex than it actually would have been, such that nobody wants it, including the public. So if you keep it, you're into a very expensive campaign process for a very minor advantage. Because they gotta move the slopes, are gonna push them to have construction inside the property, and the property owner doesn't want it. So this becomes the easiest way to resolve that.
To be clear, what are we talking about here? Are we?
Portions of a sidewalk.
Okay, this is not going to be portions of the sidewalk?
Yeah, so you're talking about like
There was
4
like
squares of sidewalk, right? That
Yeah, it's existing sidewalk, it just, if the improvements just wouldn't happen, so there would still be sidewalk there. It just wouldn't be updated.
Okay, it's not eliminating sidewalks.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
probably
no.
keeping 16 linear feet of sidewalk in place instead of upgrading it.
And what features did the upgrades have previously? That made it different than. the existing
Probably
sidewalk?
the ADA compliance, right?
Yeah, it
That's
would be the
uh,
DWS, the domes at the bottom. So it would be when you come off of the sidewalk to the drive aisle, you would have the ramps with the DWS, the strips, like the bubbles at the end.
Uh,
So how much are we gonna save by not doing this?
I don't think that's been determined.
Yeah, a cost hasn't been provided to me.
And some of it, as I recall, was getting the additional property rights from the neighboring property. They were amenable on paper as long as it didn't create a more serious disruption or incursion into the property. And it sounds like the grading and the work.
Yeah.
Really would force you to tear it up. And
Yeah.
I think in their view, that was never part of the understanding.
It, from a quick design and look in the field, it would look like one of the mature trees would have to come down. The decorative brick wall would have to be removed, and then you would go up into the actual drive aisle to be able to meet the slope that would be responded.
So I think it's fair to say that we're not losing any sidewalk.
Yeah.
We're saving lots of money by doing this change.
Yeah.
And I guess the other concern is ADA issues. Do we know if that is a existing concern in the area, people who need that?
I have never received any complaints, however, it may be something that the pedestrian bike group and the planning commission could consider. Since the U-shaped corridor is going right up to, the intersection of Bridge and Berwyn. So they could include that section, maybe in a next phase or as a separate project.
The reason we could do this now is because the land development included that sliver. Right, that's why we can tell this happening. So we don't do it now, we don't get a chance to. Correct.
Say it's in the right of way, so you have, yeah, you can put sidewalk in the right of way when you choose to. It's from what the engineers are saying, it would force you to go into the property.
But we do, when somebody does land development, they have to pay before they improve the sidewalks. We do if we have to pay for it.
Yeah,
Okay, so because it's land development right now, we can force. What about them to do, it, which is us.
yeah, that's some of the logic of why this is here, is you're paying for it now.
Right.
If-
Well, we're paying 30% of it. If we did in the future, we'll get it on.
Very good. It will delay things. And it will prevent you from that, it will delay you getting environments. So
But it's offsite.
I think it's gonna end the project, it really takes time, you're gonna be fighting with people, you're gonna be paying engineers to, yeah, I think that's it.
So what portion of it is that whole feature,
Far side.
this side over here, with that mature tree over there?
It would be that tree, and that brick, that decorative brick wall.
So that would have to come down.
Well,
And
The
you wanna-
disclaimer
you
is
bring
this.
You bring the image,
the full design has not been provided to the township to know exactly what would have to come down. But in talks with, the representative from Pinoni, that was his, inclination.
I'm inclined to ask for more information and some more time, just so that they can come back to us and figure out.
but they is
what it would
you,
be.
you do know that, because you're paying for all of this.
So my question is, if we wait, table this for a couple weeks or a month or something, we losing out, like, is there? Like, we gotta pay extra,
Probably
we're
not.
halting,
When you consider all the extras
Yes.
that we have in our budget.
We're- we're-
And everything in construction, time costs money and all things.
Sure.
So
Your
you're,
remobilization of that crew, they're gonna be done, by the time, if we're 5 weeks out, I think your crews that do that work are
And
already
it's gonna-
demobilized. You're
and-
starting,
it's gonna take it's gonna take a long time to design it too. It has to be designed. It was envisioned as an arrow on a plan that said improve sidewalk. It was determined to meet sophisticated engineering. So the end of the project will be delayed, the time cost money one way or another.
And I blame the general contractor, architect for this, because they've done this before, right? They know how to build sidewalks. Why didn't they tell us this before?
the only other part I'd add is that if this was constructed, it sort of end up with a sidewalks don't work because it will just pinch down to what its existing condition. As soon as you exit that ramp area, it goes back down to a 3 foot rather overgrown area.
With a utility pole in the middle of the sidewalk.
It's sort of, if you want a sidewalk there, you're paying for the sidewalk anyway you slice it.
Right.
If you want a sidewalk, pay somebody to do it right once. Don't pay somebody to build you 16 linear feet of sidewalk. You also run the risk that you'll pay somebody a fortune to design you 16 linear feet of sidewalk and then redesign it in 6 months first when you decide you want it. So,
Why is there a telephone pole right in the middle of that sidewalk? How'd that happen?
You've got one.
and the sidewalk is saying, why is there a sidewalk in the middle of our telephone pole?
Pico is doing a pole project within that area, so there's a possibility of maybe relocated.
Okay. It's just confusing to me is all, like if the pole was already there, why would you put the sidewalk there? The sidewalk was already there, why would you put the pole right there? Like, just something's weird, but.
Well, two new poles they just put in are closer to the right of way.
Yeah, this is unrelated to the building.
Yeah, no, understood. I'm just complaining while I'm looking at this. I mean, my sense is. They probably didn't do the homework. It's fine. It's part of the job. They come out there, they see it's a huge pain. Contractor would rather save money, not have to do it. Propose this as a change or field change.
We would like to see them.
Understood, but. Part of what Michael's saying is correct. It probably should have been envisioned by the contractor. It is what it is. If the sidewalk was more busted up, I feel more strongly that we should redo this. I'm probably okay with it, as is, but I'm hoping that there's some sort of credit to be allocated.
Push it for credit, we don't know how at this point, some things get buried in big line items. And so you're fighting over how much that costs, but we'll press for credit.
Yeah.
In the same way we're pressing and being pressed for costs in one basis for this.
I guess begrudgingly, I'll support it.
But I have a begrudging motion to advise the approved subdivision land development plans for being the proposed offsite improvements for the project.
And it's just the one improvement, no SM improvements.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second, and I'll just add that from a cost savings perspective, this makes sense, even though it kind of tastes bad.
How much they're gonna.
Yeah, well, it'd be easier to, like, it's telling that they can come to us with what the price savings will be. But it does seem to save some cost to the township. Anyway, is there any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Next up, we have departments and reports. Is there anything anyone wanted to pull out or anything?
Yeah, we have a few to share with you. Start with Mike, share the vehicle item and the DEA money. Is it okay?
Sure. So we did receive a check for over $565,000 from DEA, Department of Justice Treasurer. So it was from my time down there. Just compliment the
Congratulations.
team
But we have
that we
the-
have. So we're looking forward to, we talked to Don today about getting together a little committee that involved the board and us on how best
Yeah.
to spend the money.
So like last time we gave you a list. So this time similar list, but we think prudent for one of you or both of you to be involved. So that the list is the list is coming from you to you, not, you just don't like the idea of, we got 565, here's how we want to spend it sort of thing. We want you involved in figuring out the best way to spend it. So we'll create that informally. And then at some point over the next 60 days, you'll get the plan on how the staff intends it or recommends it to be spent. You'll approve that at a public meeting. And then every expense will be measured against that plan.
Did we get the actual check or just notice that we're getting the check?
Oh, we have the money.
Right, good.
It's a name.
And then
That's
Dave,
important.
the third, or Mike, this is the third vehicle, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna request for 2026 budget, a third vehicle. For the new traffic safety position, as well as to push out an aging fleet that's really driving up our maintenance costs. on
And
vehicles.
my understanding, you reviewed it at the work group, you thought it was a good idea, so it's gonna be, unless you say otherwise, it will be in the draft budget. You can take it out, you don't have to approve it. But it will show up as three vehicles in the draft budget. Colleen, will you talk about the three items for the U-shaped corridor?
Sure. So Carroll Engineering is close to finalizing the plans for the U-shaped corridor. There's a couple of points just to bring to your attention. One is PennDOT, at the direction of PennDOT, the crossing at First and Waterloo has been shifted, I believe, south a little bit to cross at the other intersection of First and Waterloo. So not the First and Waterloo with the library on it. There's a map there that shows you.
She
But
said that
shifted.
correctly.
Yeah, but shifted to the other intersection of First and Waterloo. PennDOT does not, they're not keen on mid-block crossings where we had it at the corner, ending at the, crossing at the existing sidewalk, extending to the existing sidewalk and having a mid-block crossing. So at their direction, the crossing was shifted south. One of the requirements, this is the biggest hurdle that we have to get over to obtain the HOP is, one of PennDOT's requirements is widening Waterloo Avenue. The engineer is going back and, for lack of better terms, questioning that requirement because that would, if that had to happen, it would be, in my opinion, a significant cost to the project to widen. So we're waiting on that item to see if, once that item is satisfied, I think the rest of the comments will be simple to satisfy and obtain the HOP. And since we're so close to the final plans, we have a pretty good idea of how many easements and temporary easements are required. So as of right now, and most likely to the end, there are 8 permanent easements required. All but 2 are occurring at the intersections. And the reason that we have 8 is because of the design of the ADA ramps. So you have to have a landing, a certain dimension and flatten. And because of that, and because of the older right-of-way width along Waterloo, it extends into private property. So we're gonna be reaching out to those residents to just start the conversation and in the office, start to gather paperwork. As far as the temporary easements, that number is significantly higher. That's closer to about 50. And the reason being is because the existing sidewalk is essentially right up against the right-of-way line. So in order to obtain like grading or anything along those lines, the piece of construction equipment is going to encroach into private property, just minimally, but it's still encroaching into private property. Therefore, it's best, in everybody's best interest, to obtain a temporary construction easement, just so we all know that we're not doing anything, that we're not supposed to do, and we can, replace everything in kind, and do the construction project accordingly.
Okay, so pretty complex, a lot of moving parts, we're proceeding with them. Just obvious or best to get your sense of comfort with these things before more was made.
Makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, very good, so
Good. And I got a question on a different item. The zoning hearing board is gonna hear a case about, short-term rentals, I think. Do we care about, like, I'm not sure.
yeah, you've already entered your opinion,
Yeah.
right, Andy?
Yeah.
Yeah, Andy provided a letter to Stacy Fuller, who is the zoning hearing board solicitor, and copied the applicant. So this hearing is scheduled for August.
Okay, you
So-
talking about this?
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been
Upwards
on,
of almost a year ago.
this, yeah,
Oh,
it's
okay,
been,
that's why
it's the
continue to
same one.
push.
from-
Okay, that's why I don't remember.
Yeah,
It never happened. Not yet, but it will in August.
Okay, never mind.
So we've stated your position in opposition. And we're-
Okay.
and then, I have two items, so one is Aqua, I put in there about the Aqua invoice. So we will, we'll come back with certainty that, yes, our opinion is, you haven't been paying them, they haven't been submitting invoices. They've indicated that, we owe them 10 invoices. We think we owe them 7. We'll know for sure, it's I don't wanna call it a negotiation at this point, it's an exchange of information. I believe that pretty shortly, we will bring it to you with, this is what we believe you owe them. And then, we've worked with Andy to just ensure the mechanism that this settles it, that once you pay them that amount, they accept that, yes, they accept that that's paid in full kind of thing, so moving in that direction on that item. And then, VFSA, that's obviously a big item because you've got there's something like the EMA is gonna recommend that you borrow $3.8 million to make the capital contribution to the VFSA. And then you'll have a resolution before you, most likely protecting or stating your opinion that when you make these capital contributions, you are entitled to proceeds in the event of a hypothetical sale. So two kind of sizable elements coming, we're targeting having them to you in August so that they can be input to the budget in fall.
Is there any language in that memo, or do we foresee any language in the memo that says something like, should we not be entitled to proceeds, we shall be, able to be reimbursed for this capital improvement investment? Like, I just don't know it's just difficult to say, we're reserving our rights for this, but we don't have any consequence essentially.
Yeah, well, I think
I just wanna know.
very good. I think it's more general than particular. And do you really want to get too particular about a hypothetical thing that might be decades in the future? The lawyers will scrub it, like the EMA made the concept, communicated the concept. The lawyers will scrub it. But mostly if there is a sale and somebody is saying you're not entitled to proceeds, there's gonna be a lot of legal work, a lot of back and forth, and a lot of pressing property rights.
Right. So Andy, on the, Aqua doesn't send us bills and we know that we owe them money. Should we be putting money in escrow or something, or is that not needed?
I mean, my understanding is the funds are there. And what we don't wanna do is pay it into a black hole, I think.
Right, but we don't wanna pay them. but-
If you got into year end and you hadn't issued it, you might wanna have a budget item that shows what you're carrying over from this year.
Okay.
But as I understand it, it's a current payable depending on what it is.
Right.
And
Cause a lot of bills are like a help to let you know that you owe something, or you still owe them,
Right.
even, right? So we could get, if we put it in escrow, we're showing good faith that we're actually trying to pay,
yeah, or even if you show it in a budget item.
that'll do
Yeah, and I've said to staff that, you're not alone in experiencing these aqua bookkeeping issues, and they seem to be getting worse around the region. So
Yeah, I think we want to
hitting
kind
it
of
straight
work for
on.
it, like we're the ones that figure, we're the ones telling them
Right,
that,
We're trying to pay them.
yes, yeah,
Right,
so
right.
we figured it out for them and told them.
and there's still.
Otherwise, it would have just, it would have lingered for more years than one.
And we have seen situations where Aqua, suddenly it's on somebody's desk and they send somebody an outrageous bill, so. That's what we're trying to sort of settle up as we go. And avoid that.
So $400,000 to $600,000, we'll have decent justification. It's all budgeted, it's all paid for, it's all earned. We'll have decent confidence in it before we ask you to pay for it.
And back to the other issue, I'm sorry, we're jumping around a little bit, we have the leverage in this moment in that we haven't necessarily made the allocation to pay them for the capital contribution, we did last year, but. We haven't made it a big, undertaking to fund all these very expensive do, so I think we have all the leverage now that, we have maximum force to. Try and compel them to make some sort of concession now, I know it would take more work, but it sure as heck is a lot more easier now at this point to get some sort of concession or agreement or admittance from them. Versus trying to figure something else after the fact, totally understanding it's hypothetical, but boy, it's gonna be a lot harder with, 4.5 years from now, they spring on everybody that they wanna sell.
Yeah, the third element of it is that, you'll continue to press. That it's not the end, it's the beginning of a negotiation.
Yeah.
And your leverage point, I guess, using that will weaken when you make your first $900,000 payment. But that's not until June of next year.
That's true, but over time, the leverage goes
Yeah,
down
yeah, yeah.
further and
Agree with
further to eventually nothing. That's
That's
all I want.
And then you do have, some would say, well, you have an obligation to pay it, and some would say that you have. An obligation to ensure that they funded to run the plant in the way that they have to run the plant, so. It isn't just, it's not quite as simple, it's probably not quite as simple as, we get to hold the money back and you have to do what we say. If you got to that, there'd be a whole bunch of difficulty.
Understood.
But you'll get a chance, you'll see the, working its way through the EMA, the intent is to have the EMA sign it. And then we're also getting the joint members, we're trying to orchestrate them doing the same thing. So that there are 5 of us communicating the same message to the VFSA.
Anything else for departmental reports? Good. Moving on to, it doesn't look like we have any items for regular business. We're on to liaison and work group reports. First up is the Berwyn Business Association. They have not met yet. Next up is the Citizens Communication Advisory Board. It's not in that meeting. Next up is ECAT.
So we met on July 14th, discussed all their projects. They're ongoing, the consolidation, they decided to leave it alone for now. Budget simplification is what I focus on that. Accounting systems that seem to be ready to go. Capital planning, I think there's more to come with that one right there.
Yeah, I'll have a recommendation from Selectman Honest.
Right, open finance, we're moving along on that.
Next up, EMA.
EMA met on the 8th, was mostly talking about the bond sizing analysis for the issue we were just talking about for paying the FSA. The commissioners are gonna recommend about a $4.6 million project fund borrow at about a 4.5% bond yield with level debt service. It's a one-time sizable rate increase this year, followed by inflation-oriented increases in later years. Don and Joe will come with new project priorities to debt service as well. Next meeting is on the 12th.
Next up, the AAC.
How do you say? Environmental supervisor.
Yep.
Oh, I do it. Didn't go. Next up is finance work group. I don't know.
We did it. Sorry, I missed this. It was a lot of money talk. There's fine. We got on July 2nd. EIT is on the budget. Actually, I thought it was a little low.
No, a little high,
Little high, okay.
positive variance, marginal positive.
These are
Less, less than the prediction that Keystone did, but we had decent safety factors.
Oh, that's what I was thinking, less than one.
Yes.
Yeah, interest is really good, what, $40,000 or something, interest income, so. Sue deserves now back for the work she was.
We're trying to build a relationship to that, so. All of it.
In the meeting, we said to consider line to expectations, I looked through the whole report. There's some way out of line expenses, but overall it's a line.
Which ones are, okay,
Yeah, we need to talk about. We talked about opera, we talked about capital. But we will probably won't be free this year.
yeah, we might try to get it going, so we're still working on it. But we don't anticipate you'll initiate construction.
It's the fire EMS task force.
That's last week. Talked about the building, talked about the agreement, sorry.
Change orders.
Inputters, yeah, yes. Yeah, every time I go to those meetings, it just makes my blood boil. Yeah, I don't know how people work in construction. It makes no sense to me.
Like Picos are in the last.
Well, they get power. The power was turned on Saturday.
Saturday.
Yep. So,
But it's,
they said 6:30 with the deadline, so I can't wait to see the change order for that one. That's about it.
Historical commission. Sean's, but. Covered. Library work trustees hours.
Yeah,
Sean said you did cover.
I think I did cover that one, I'm sorry. I did not document it too.
I have some props.
Yeah, what do you got?
Okay.
It's
I
okay?
brought, I'm sorry, what?
Sure. Just checking if it's okay.
Yeah, so I brought a summer reading t-shirt. This is the summer's edition, designed by one of the staff members at the library. It's really a great shirt. And with the summer reading program, and Color Our World, which is the theme, there's associated activities for children, but also for adults. So if you have any interest at all, stop in or go onto the website. And be in line with the 250 celebration coming up. The Friends will be hosting another Taste of Berwyn in October and November, and we're trying to tie in any of the restaurants or eating establishments that are in historic buildings, and we're asking them to submit just some information about their history so that we can share that with the community. So that's what's happening right now. Yeah, it's exciting. There's a lot going on over there.
But in doing that, we checked Jasmine, because I know she doesn't have the building anymore, but she was.
I know. I wish we could. We send people into buildings, Michael, or into the different eating establishments, and they get a passport. We are working in conjunction with the farmers market though as well, and she sometimes has a pop-up there, so.
Not going to anymore.
Yeah.
Her last one, like,
All
I
right,
think last one.
well, be on the lookout. So that's what's happening right now. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity to share.
Next up is neighborhood watch, they're gonna meet this on. Next is Parks and Rec.
we had a wonderful weekend. I think that the committee did an amazing job. They pulled it off flawlessly.
Yeah, it's a real volunteer effort, so it's a lot of volunteers. to make all this happen.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Great thing.
Fantastic environment, yeah. And we, now that we have those grills, I understand we all know, Yes, I think it's, yeah, we plan to use them for the opening of the firehouse. Maybe it's a big celebration of that. Something like.
We could fund it.
You want the grills,
30%, yeah, it is 30%, I don't know, something, we have to make sure that that day is something. Yeah,
All right, next up, public works Ward 3.
yes, we met on July 2nd. Everything's going well. Apparently there were a couple big storms. And they're done as planned as needed. I don't have any big issues. So it's about a couple like time parts and paving and sharp skills.
Next up is stormwater management advisory.
Yes, smack Matt. We talked a little bit about the PRP number 3, the pollutant reduction plan, which is the hilltop project that Don was referencing before. It would be like a stream regrading, which sounds good, but it would probably do a lot of, let's say, ripping up a lot of trees that are along the area, so there's a lot to kind of sort through. Maybe there's,
so what we gotta do is we gotta bring you back this is the vision, this is the reach of the vision. It might be too much money, it might not be worth it, there isn't a lot of reason to think it's a good idea. And we're not proceeding under the assumption that it's required anymore. Alternatively, something like a rain garden in that southern corner. So we're trying to find, we're working with some design professionals to try to find a sweet spot that'll get sent through the SMAC and then it'll come to you for a decision.
and we're already pretty precocious from the last permitting cycle. We just kind of did really well in comparison to a lot of our peers, so might not be a lot of, emphasis to.
If you're gonna spend $1 million, you better be compelled to spend
Yeah.
that when you don't have to.
Yeah, cutting down hundreds of trees. Stormwater management doesn't seem like a good.
Yeah, there might be ways to kind of salvage the project where it's only a portion of it, we don't have to do
So
that,
those are
so.
the things, we'll work those things out, we'll filter them through SMAC, and then it'll be your decision when the time comes.
And then just a couple of the other items were, they were coming up with budgeting recommendations for 2026 to get ready for budgeting season next month too. They're gonna recommend to us the same, I think, 2 projects that they had recommended previously, which was somewhat costly intervention, about $300,000 for like a high water table area, kind of regrading, redirecting. And then another one was 2 areas that had high water safety alarms. So it was like kind of the remote sensor, there'd be a sensor in place. If the water table rises to the point where it's an unsafe area to cross, on a suspected area, the alarm kind of automatically comes out and closes, and it sends out like a text alert to local residents or to the township. And basically the whole point of that is so that what previously the police would be doing or Public Works, where you'd send a guy in the middle of a huge rainstorm or a flood, he's got to drive out there and put some cones out or some barricades so that people don't drive through. Now you have a remote arm on a area that happens semi-frequently. It can come down and close the road, and then when the water subsides, it can kind of open back up automatically. It's a nice solution. It may never be required if we don't get any huge rainstorms. It might happen 3 times a year where it happens. So we don't know, but it seems like a clever piece of engineering, and it's relatively cheap, about $100,000 total in comparison to doing more, invasive stormwater interventions. So more to come on that. That's all I got.
Moving on to public comment. Are there any public comments? Nope. Announcements are available online on the Easttown Township website. There will be executive session following this meeting to cover
Litigation.
and personnel.
Is there any personnel?
Yeah.
Just litigation.
Just litigation.
Property, real estate.
Nah.
That's a little element of all 3. We're gonna update you on some personal matters.
Okay, I have a motion to adjourn.
So
Second.
Adjourn.
Thank you.
thank you. Bailed me out there. My notes are on my other laptop.